Coco, hey, ACO, what's the difference between the death penalty and a life sentence?
ACO, well, for example, when there is a revolution, the king is chopped off with a guillotine, and that is the death penalty.
Coco, what about a life sentence?
ACO, a life sentence is like being in prison for the rest of your life.
Coco, I see. So it's the difference between death and re-entry to atone for your sins.
ACO, exactly. So, does that mean that a life sentence means that the younger you are, the longer you suffer? Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but now that you mention it, it does make sense.
Coco, actually, there are some prisoners in the world who were given life sentences while still minors. Yeah, is that right?
ACO, what kind of crimes do you have to commit to get such a heavy sentence for a child? I'm getting a little curious, Marissa.
Coco, can you explain it to us?
ACO, sure.
Okay, so today's commentary will be about the children
who were sentenced to life in prison. ACO, sure. ACO, sure.
Coco, okay, let's get started. There are a total of 7 people I'm going to introduce here. The first one is Eric Smith, a child who was sentenced to life in prison.
ACO, in 1993, a 4-year-old boy was brutally murdered in the United States. The murderer's name was Eric Smith, and he was 13 years old at the time.
Coco, it is very surprising that a 13-year-old kid committed a murder.
ACO, here's how it happened. First, Eric approached a boy who was playing in a nearby park. He took the boy into the woods away from the park and strangled him to death. Eric even dropped a large rock on the boy's head and played a trick on his corpse to make sure he was dead.
Coco, geez, that's insane. How in the world did Eric get away with this?
ACO, he was actually bullied at school. It's just a matter of time before his pent-up frustration got the better of him.
Coco, still, it's cruel to hurt a child younger than yourself. It's just cruel.
ACO, then there was a trial, and Eric was sentenced to life in prison. I hope he's very sorry for what he did.
Coco, don't worry about that. He's showing remorse. Eric sent a letter of apology to the victim's family. I didn't know that. It's admirable that he can apologize properly. Reimu can also apologize when she has done something wrong, can't she?
ACO, of course.
Coco, you ate my ice cream from the fridge last night.
ACO, the second child to receive a life sentence was Kenneth Youthful. Kenneth was 14 years old at the time, and was arrested for aiding and abetting a robbery 4 times in 1 month.
Coco, 4 times in 1 month, not a bad guy at heart, you'd think. But Kenneth had a compelling reason.
ACO, Kenneth was forced to cooperate because he was threatened. Help us rob the bank or we'll hurt your friends. That's a terrible thing to say.
Coco, and the guy who was threatening him was the same guy who was selling drugs to his mother. That's a very hard thing to say no to.
ACO, eventually, Kenneth was arrested, tried, and sentenced to life in prison.
Coco, did he get a life sentence for killing someone during a robbery?
ACO, no, not exactly.
Coco, then why the life sentence?
ACO, I think the punishment is a little too severe. There is a law in the U. called the 3 strikes law, which makes any crime a felony if it is repeated 3 times.
Coco, so, Kenneth helped commit 4 robberies. So the 3 strikes law gives him a heavier sentence.
ACO, that's right. But considering that he was threatened, I do feel a little sorry for him.
Coco, it seems that Reimu was not the only one who felt sorry for Kenneth. With the help of many others, Kenneth's sentence was reduced to 30 years.
ACO, but he still gets 30 years. Whatever the circumstances, a crime is a crime, I guess. But still, the 3 strikes law. I'll have to watch out for that.
Coco, you're probably right. The third child to receive a life sentence is Lionel Tate, who was 12 years old when he murdered a 6-year-old girl in July 1999. The girl was in the care of her mother, who was babysitting her for work.
ACO, his son killed a girl he was taking care of on the job? According to Lionel's testimony, it was an accident during a wrestling match.
Coco, well, 12 years old is still in the 6th grade. It's not impossible. If Lionel's testimony were true, there would still be room for a lighter sentence.
ACO, what do you mean? The Fencer's results revealed something startling. The body was in worse condition than we had imagined, with a fractured skull and ribs, brain damage, and a badly torn liver.
Coco, that's not the kind of injury you can play with. by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, that was brought up at the trial.
ACO. Sure enough, after the trial, Lionel was sentenced to life in prison. Of course, he lied and stood up for himself.
Coco. Incidentally, Lionel was later released from prison. But for some reason he continued to cause problems. Finally, he was re-arrested for threatening a pizza guy with a gun.
ACO. Why did he do such a stupid thing when he could have been free? Lionel, you are a messed up character.
Coco. It's like this. There is no way to be careful. But I want to be kind to others so that I don't get involved in crimes. Many children commit crimes without time to think about what is wrong. So it's important to influence the people around them.